back. The Africa Polling Institute, in its recent studies, found out that weak economy and insecurity are the major factors that motivate Nigerians to emigrate to Canada. In its study titled Deconstructing the Canada Rush, the Institute also noted that favorable Canadian immigration policies appear to also constitute a key enabler and pull factor attracting prospective migrants. I'm being joined by the Executive Director of Africa Polling Institute, Dr. Bell Ihua. He joins us from our studios in Abuja. Good morning, Dr. Ihua, and thanks for joining us on the program.
Good morning. My pleasure to be here.
All right, so tell us why this study was necessary at this point.
Okay, thanks for that question. We're in Nigeria, I believe, as social researchers, as opinion pollsters, we are the barometers of the country. And it's our job to constantly feel the pulse of the nation on various issues that pertain to public life and, of course, governance. Everywhere you turn, one of the common features we've been seeing, even from anecdotal evidences, are the fact that Nigerians are either processing one scheme or the other to emigrate to Canada, or some have already emigrated. And we took the responsibility up ourselves at Africa Polling Institute to conduct a scientific study to understand what the issues are and why Nigerians are immigrating to Canada. And from that study, we came up with two broad results that showed certain factors which we considered push factors and other factors which we consider pull factors. If I may start with the push factors, there are at least 5 major factors that Nigerians are looking at to consider this their new decision to move. The first is because of better career prospects and opportunities in Canada. The second is due to the situation of heightened insecurity and violence in the country. The third, which we observed, is because of a better future for their children. The fourth is those who want to go to Canada to further their education. And the fifth is due to poor governance, due to perceived poor governance that Nigerians are saying. So these are the push factors. On the other hand, we have, just as you said, the favorable Canadian migration policy that's serving as a pull factor to attract people to Canada. From our literature review, there are up to about 15 different schemes which people can use to migrate to Canada. If I may just mention a few of them, you have the permanent residency scheme, you have the temporary residency scheme, you have the international studentship, the Atlantic migration scheme, the rural migration scheme, the northern migration scheme, you have the provincial nominee migration scheme, you have the federal skilled workers migration scheme, which is also known as express entry. You have the self-employed migration scheme, you have the startup visa migration scheme. So there are loads of schemes, and these schemes are point-based. What it means is that if you meet up the point, if you have a degree or you have a business, or you meet the point. But for us, what's most important here is not just these push and pull factors, but that the nature or the trend of this move are that Nigerians who are taking advantage of this opportunity are not poor Nigerians. They are middle-class Nigerians, highly educated, highly skilled, upward mobile, and in most cases, employed Nigerians who are leaving jobs in Nigeria to emigrate to Canada.
So why would I want to leave my job in Nigeria to emigrate to Canada? Of course, you just mentioned that we have highly skilled Nigerians who are actually taking up this opportunity in Canada. What exactly is the driving force behind this?
Yes, I mean, as I said, two main bulk are, one, we have the weak economy. The truth of the matter is that the Nigerian economy is currently weak and struggling, and this is causing a lot of uncertainty in the system and making people wonder, is my job secure? Am I sure that I'm not going to be laid off tomorrow? And because of that, people are considering to take the first move. The second, of course, is the heightened state of insecurity. I think we've been talking about this for a while now, that the country is currently undergoing some of the worst level of insecurity it has experienced in recent times, and this is one of the reasons driving this factor. If we look at the age demography, we observe that those between the ages of 18 and 35 focused more on wanting to leave the country to further their education and for better career prospects. While those between the ages of 35 to 60, the adult population, are those who are more concerned about the heightened state of insecurity and to give their children a better future. So we see people here who are putting family first, putting children first, asking themselves critical questions like, is the Nigerian educational system primed to be able to handle 21st century challenges? Are they able to handle issues like artificial intelligence, robotics? In 20 years down the line, with the current educational system, will our children be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with children from other parts of the world? So these are some of the implications that Nigerians are really thinking. And of course, it has huge brain drain implication on the country.
Exactly. I was just going to ask that. What implications will this have in the country in the long run? I mean, we have all age classes leaving the country. Of course, we have the youth and those who are saying they're doing this for their children. So in years to come, what effect will this have on the country?
I mean, we cannot overemphasize the impact it's going to have. It's going to have a major impact on loss of manpower for the country. So we've seen this from two angles. So one, the employed Nigerians, skilled Nigerians who have been trained here, who are leaving the country, and those who leave the country to study in Canada. And we expect that after studying, they return, but no, they move on further to seek the holy grail of migration, which is transiting from studentship to permanent residency. So we have this huge bulk. Take, for example, a medical doctor who in a federal university, in a federal teaching hospital, or in the hospital here, earns about 120,000 naira a month. He knows that his colleague that has traveled to Canada earns an equivalent of about 1.5 to 2 million naira a month. And this is a major appeal. So we are seeing that across sectors like the medical sector, ICT, the engineering sector, even the creative industry, people are moving to Canada. And what's most shocking for us is to see that globally, there is a global hunt for talent worldwide. Whether we believe it or not, countries all over the world are looking for bright brains and best brains and looking for ways to attract them so that they can help develop their economy. And the earlier we started thinking about this in Nigeria, the better for us.
And so did you present your findings to the government in any way?
Yes, I mean, we've been, having huge dissemination sessions. We've been on most of the media platforms, and we've also sent out reports to some of the institutions we believe should be institutions to listen to this. We're also having some more dissemination sessions as the days and the weeks go by in certain public institutions, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Diaspora Commission, and some other public institutions we believe should hear the findings of this report.
And what has the response from them been like?
Well, our job is to conduct the survey and to put out the results. Ultimately, it behoves on them what they do with the findings. But I think so far there is an urgency that we want to see, which we may not necessarily be seeing. There's urgency in terms of rejigging the economy and bringing the economy back on its feet so that businesses can thrive. I mean, I just heard your guest, AK Obiji, talking about how the impact of the economy on SMEs, and that's part of what we are saying. The economy is weak. SMEs cannot afford interest rates of 2 digits. It has to come down much below that. And of course, there's a huge issue of security, of certain corridors in the country now, Lagos, Lokoja, Kaduna, Abuja, and some of certain corridors have become kidnapper zones, banditry zones, death traps. And what we really need to do is to have our military generals and our military security chiefs look critically into addressing this issue of insecurity. It goes without saying that we are currently experiencing heightened insecurity than we've ever experienced in the past in this country, and all hands need to be on deck to rejig our security architecture and ensure that every Nigerian citizen has effective security services that can ensure that we sleep with both eyes closed and not wondering what will happen next.
Now, in the course of carrying out your survey, did you in any way interact with Nigerians who have successfully migrated to Canada? Do they say that things are actually better on that side than back here at home?
Yes, indeed. Very well so. We actually interviewed Nigerians who had already migrated. So the two groups of Nigerians we spoke with, one, those who are here, prospective migrants, and those who have already emigrated and are currently living with their families in Canada. And we asked them this question in retrospect, thinking back, do you think you made a good decision to emigrate with your family to Canada? I can tell you categorically that 59% of those we spoke to said it has been an excellent decision, which they do not regret. 38% say it has been a good decision so far. We only had about 1% of the population saying it's been a wrong decision. So there you have it. You have 97 to 98% of those who have emigrated saying that it's been a very good decision. But beyond that, we also asked them if they were willing to return to Nigeria in future at some point. 64% of those who have already emigrated said they are not looking to return to Nigeria anytime soon, leaving only 34% who said they will consider returning to Nigeria if there are changes in leadership and if there are changes in the way, the direction the country is currently headed. But interestingly, at least we could note that 81% of that population that are currently in Canada send monies home regularly to family members, to relatives. They send money mainly for family upkeep, for charity, to help people. There are some who are building, have building projects in Nigeria, and of course those who are supporting the education of some family members and friends.
Now let's talk about just that 1% that actually say that they do regret making that decision, relocating to Canada. Did they give you the reasons why?
We tried to probe on the reasons why that 1%, we really didn't get much, but it's our sense that there are certain people who, at the end of the day, home is home. And I think the weather in Canada is a big issue. Of course, it's really cold. And for some people, I guess they didn't anticipate or bargain that the sort of weather they met there is what they would meet. And that's what is leading to that 1%. But by and large, we can see clearly that the majority, you hear people saying things like, our children are now settled in good schools. We're not paying even for their schooling. We live in a community or a neighborhood that's safe and secure. We can sleep with both eyes closed. We're not worried about when the light is going to go off. We know that we have light and we can use it anytime we want.
Now, at a time like this, when the Nigerian economy is struggling to survive now, do you actually see more Nigerians migrating to not just Canada, but anywhere they think they can actually find greener pastures?
Yeah, part of this study showed the sort of top countries that Nigerians were considering to emigrate to. So in the past, the UK and the US were sort of hot spots. But of course, the current immigration policy in the US have not made it as attractive as it used to be. And of course, there were implications from Brexit, pre-Brexit implications, and now post-Brexit implications that meant that also the UK was no longer as attractive as it was in the past. So that's why Canada and Australia are sort of the two big, factors now that are playing out. But what we also see is that there's also a huge implication for for foreign direct investment and funds coming back, so financial remittances. If you remember, CBN reported in 2018 that about $25 billion was remitted by Nigerians in the diaspora. So and that was up from only $22 billion in 2017. So between 2017 and 2018, there's an additional $3 billion added to the number, the amount being remitted from Nigerians in the diaspora. So this is a huge component that is sort of a benefit, but of course, it needs to be balanced. Because if we have all our brightest brains out of the country, who's going to do the thinking in-house? If, for example, all our consultant surgeons are thinking of going abroad, if it comes to performing very major and serious medical surgery in this country, who are those going to be conducting that surgery? So these are some of the implications.
Many thanks for speaking with us on Business Morning. We've been talking to the head of Africa Poll. Thank you so much for speaking with us on Business Morning.
My pleasure.